Hi, I'm Dom Hind, and fuck, I'm nearly 50. Actually, I'm 47 in 2 months, but who's counting? The thing is, time moves fast. 1 minute you're eating whatever you want, running on no sleep and bouncing back like it's nothing. And then suddenly you wake up and your body feels like it's staging a quiet rebellion. Everything shifts: hormones, metabolism, energy, and no one gives you the manual. And that's exactly why I wanted to sit down with today's guest, Zoe Bingley-Pullin. Zoe has been a friend for years. Our girls have grown up together. We've shared way too many dinners at fishmongers and wushuku, and I've always loved how she talks about food. No guilt, no extremes, just real, practical ways to make it work for your life. She's a nutritionist, a chef, and now the author of Eat Your Way to Healthy Hormones, which, let's be honest, is the book most of us need right now. Because if you've ever found yourself crying in the car for no reason, rage texting your partner over absolutely nothing, or wondering why one glass of wine now feels like an entire bottle, you're not alone. Zoe's helped so many women stop fighting their bodies and start working with them. And today, we're getting into it. Why our bodies suddenly feel like they're betraying us, how food can actually help us feel normal again, and the biggest midlife diet myths we all need to let go of. Most importantly, she's going to tell us how we can do this all without giving up wine and chocolate, because if that's the deal, particularly with the chocolate, I'm out. So let's get into it, because fuck, I'm nearly 50, and isn't it amazing? If you've ever had a meltdown over something ridiculous, felt like your metabolism is personally attacking you, or woken up wondering what the hell is happening, this is the episode for you. Zoe isn't just an expert in eating for hormone imbalance. She's also my go-to when I need to decode what's happening with my body. And there's a lot. And honestly, she's the only one I trust to talk to about food without making me feel guilty for eating or loving butter, chocolate, and all of those things in between. We've been friends for a very long time. Our girls have grown up together. We've debated midlife mysteries over sashimi, and we've spent too much time laughing at Michael bringing his own avocado.
That's so good.
So when Zoe released Eat Your Way to Healthy Hormones, I knew we had to have this chat, because let's be real, most of us have no clue what's actually happening inside our bodies. And we're going to talk about everything that feels like it's changing in there, how to stop fighting food and start using it to better health, and make sure that your biggest nutritional myths are left behind, way behind. And a simple no BS food hacks to keep our hormones happy without having to completely overhaul our diets. Zoe, welcome to Fuck, I'm Nearly 50.
Oh God, I love that title so much. Like,
so exactly. Every time I say it, I'm like, oh my God, no, I am. How would you introduce yourself in the most Zoe way possible?
In the most Zoe way. I mean, awesome, no.
Yeah.
No, took a long time to say that, I might add. Look, I am a nutritionist and a chef, but I think ultimately what I am, I'm a passionate foodie. I try to kind of debunk some of those myths about what is actually good and what's not good when it comes to food, because the reality is, if we pedestalize food and we put it up here, what we don't do is put it on the plate.
Yeah.
It's about incrementally making these changes, understanding the dynamic input that these foods actually have in our lifestyle, but making it enjoyable, because you know, we are what we eat and we are what we absorb, but you really can, eat your way to better health.
Yeah, and that's what I love, is that you don't judge, and you do.
What a waste of time that is. No time for judgment.
Yeah, there's too many other people that do that.
Oh, exactly. Get in line.
Yeah. So let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
Why do our hormones suddenly act like total dicks when we're in midlife.
Yeah, look, it's a time thing. The reality is when your body ages, you have your ovulation is changing and your ovaries are changing. And what we get is we get complete surges in different hormones and decline in different hormones, primarily things like estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. So really what's happening is we're having what used to be sort of a modulated consistent, because as we know, when we go through our cycle, we naturally have our estrogen levels rise. We get luteinizing hormone and we get follicle stimulating hormone coming up, and then we get testosterone, so we get all horny and we want to have sex. And then that comes down naturally, sort of hopefully gracefully. It doesn't though, we all know. Estrogen comes down and progesterone comes up, and then, the cycle starts to happen all over again.
Mm-hmm.
But what's happening in that is that we've slowly got this estrogen sort of declining, but it doesn't just drop. It's not like testosterone that has this sort of gradual change. Mind you, I think my husband might be going through menopause.
Yeah, Juzzy's getting very hot and sweaty all the time. I'm like, what's
Michael
going
swore at me
on?
the other day. He never swears. He was like, Jesus, fuck Zoe. I was like, what? That's normally me. I'm that human being that basically has a potty mouth. Yeah, exactly. Michael is a definite no. So, but again, what's happening is it is the new puberty.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is it is, that period of time, when we were going through all those beautiful hormonal changes and we're getting our period. It's the opposite. We are stopping menstruating. We're coming to the end of our cycle. And for me personally, that should be another celebration.
Yeah, it should be.
We celebrated so heavily when, my mum made up some story that we went out for champagne when I got my period. That's complete bullshit. That did not happen. She did have one of the most wicked menopauses. I mean, that's sort of partially what motivated me to kind of look beyond the veil.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't understand what she was going through. I just thought she was a bitch, basically. Yeah. And I don't want Emily looking at me that way. I mean, she can justify the bitchiness if necessary, not because of my hormones.
No.
Not when there's something that I need to understand. So then I can explain it to her as well.
And I think it is actually really interesting to think about celebrating it rather than commiserating and going, oh my gosh, we're nearly at the end.
Look, it's quite interesting because we say that all these different cultures celebrate in different ways. It's actually bullshit. No one celebrates it. There's no culture that I can see. The reason why Japanese women, it's spoken to because they actually don't go to the doctor very much. And the reason why there is not a word, in the Chinese language, because there is no word for hot flush in there. Yeah. So it's really actually a case in point. This is not just a westernized, impression of what we're going through. We haven't lived as long. This is, generationally, we're living longer. And we're not only living longer, we're living in a lifestyle and a quality that we've never had before. Yeah. We have careers that are dynamic, or they're just happening. They're just happening diet, but we are still in a career at this age.
Yeah.
We often have that, double sword where we have young children. We have elderly parents. So we have all of these very visible, important things still happening that we didn't have, if you went back sort of 1 or 2 generations ago to the same level of significance.
And I also think that people are talking about it more. Like we are actually talking about it more, and women now have a voice to talk about it.
I think this is kind of, if you likened it to sort of feminism, that we are going through a beautiful historical point where feminism was what women were fighting for. Now what we're fighting for is hormonal equality. We actually want to understand this because it is so awful, some of the symptoms. It is so overwhelming how you actually feel. And to feel when we've fought so hard to have control and to understand our careers and to understand motherhood. And now that feels like that it's happening to us. It's not an external thing happening. It's actually internally is what's going on. And we don't understand it and we don't have control. So it's really a very vulnerable time.
Yeah.
And I think, womanhood together, we're pretty powerful bitches, Together we can understand and we can share, because what we're also looking at is, that the medical, environment hasn't had the training. It hasn't had, I think we're hearing more and more and more about, even gynecologists, OGYBs and GPs, sometimes minimal weeks or months worth of training to understand menopause. I mean, that's disgraceful.
Yeah, it is.
It's actually disgraceful.
It is.
So I think me personally, I'm a bit of a tough woman. I know that, but I do think it's really important that we handle this correctly as women, and we don't go in and we start screaming and shouting and fighting to be heard. We understand that there is a way that we can, men, women, all all industries linked together to solve this problem quickly rather than drag it on as another argument. This is often what I'm seeing that within the medical industry, the fight against, different viewpoints, circumstances, medication, objectives, whereas...
shouldn't that be like the individual? Like everything about this should be down to the individual.
Yeah, look, I think the individual, there's cost parameters in sometimes these circumstances. Often what will happen is that, I'm very lucky, you're very lucky, because although HRT is definitely something that I'm never closed off to doing, that's a cheaper option where I can afford to go down a slightly more expensive option, which sucks for other people, but it's also where my priorities lie. I will give up a number of different things so my nutrition is paramount. I will give up a number of different things so I can exercise and, see a trainer or do the things that for me, for my mental health. And I think where my story sort of came about, it was very much prioritized over mental health. I was losing my shit and I didn't know why. I'd already gone through such a battle. I had from 29 when I first found out I couldn't have children. I had a miscarriage, didn't know what it was. And by the time I kind of got back, I was away at the time. By the time I got back to see a doctor, he goes, "You're fine. You are that age. You should be, you're healthy." I kept getting labeled. I was like, these fucking labels. You're healthy, you're fine, just start trying. And I was like, okay, all right. So didn't grieve, didn't question because the authority had said not to question. And so just kept chugging on. And then, 3 months, 6 months, a year later, still not pregnant, again, feeling completely rejected, hopeless, thinking, I'm a nutritionist. I should know better. I should know what to do. No idea. I had no idea what to do as well. And again, it was only because I had this gorgeous friend, Lisa Lane, she's got a great company called The Wellness Lane. She's also in the natural health industry. Love her to death. She's like a second older sister to me. She's wonderful. She just said, look, something's not right here, Zoe. You need to kind of look a little bit deeper into it. So that, another woman called Belinda Matheson, we looked, they gave me these tools. And I'm so grateful, as older women who had experience to kind of look at IVF. And I subsequently found out that I had what's called a low anti-Murillia hormone. So that's the hormone that basically, dictates how many eggs. It's very broad, but, the range is meant to be between 15 and 30 and mine was 2. So it was an indicator that at a young age that there could have been problems along the line. But what really kind of closed the deal is when I actually sort of pushed on seeing specialists and really having my voice being heard, we actually found out that both my fallopian tubes had so much scar tissue in it. There was no way I was ever going to have, I had systemic fluid building up in my uterus that was flushing out, I just thought I was peeing my pants. I thought a little tinkle was going on. What it was actually systemic fluid. So, far grosser actually when you think of it. I don't know about you. So then it was like this journey of 5 years. 5 years.
But I find it so fascinating that even with, my health issues with melanoma, if I didn't own that journey,
I'm so
no one
proud of you for
else does.
And I know, I was, I saw what you went through. Like you questioned and you asked, you asked the right, you forced your voice to be heard. But it's frustrating because it shouldn't be that way.
No, it definitely shouldn't.
Look, I'm not labeling this primarily, hormonally, obviously it's a female thing, but I think the medical industry as a whole, male or female, unless you have a strong voice, or what I often recommend with my clients, when you go and see a GP, if you kind of turn up and go, look, I think I should get a blood test. Because of Medicare, if everyone did that, Medicare would be, it's already crashing as it is, but it would actually be, it would layer the problem. So you've really got to talk symptoms, and as a doctor, they have to create a diagnosis. So it's really important. So how if you want to find out more, I don't want to say Google things, but talk to your girlfriends, find out what they, how they find, and as I think it's so relevant, people say, if you went and got a haircut and you didn't like your haircut, you wouldn't go back to that hairdresser.
That's it.
It's the same with doctors. Find the doctor that responds to you, that you can talk to, that you feel open. But if it's as simple as putting some notes on your phone, because who hasn't gone into a doctor's surgery and forgotten?
Oh, absolutely.
What they're going to say. Get your notes.
Yep.
Look at your notes. Talk to the doctor. Look at your notes. I always say to my clients, this is a bit of a one-on-one thing I do even in meetings. At the end of a meeting, I said, just so, because I've got ADHD, I say, just so we're on the same page, is this what I heard you say?
Yeah.
Because
well, you need to.
I often, I've interpreted. I don't think it's just ADHD.
No. I think it is. Everyone does. Everyone goes, oh, what?
Or you have different ways of absorbing information.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it is amazing putting notes together. And I know this is could be controversial, but even with, my liver stuff that's been happening lately,
we know why that.
Yeah. I was using and consulting ChatGPT just to make sure that I get the right questions to actually ask, because you just don't know.
Totally. I mean, look, ChatGPT needs to be used, and it's at its infancy. So
Absolutely. I need to use it as
because I think what's asked. I mean, take information, ask the questions, then go into another source and ask the same questions. Because I have found I love ChatGPT. It's like, being a sole proprietor owning my own business. It's like having a staff of 5.
Yeah, it absolutely
it helps me so much. You've helped me with some asking the right questions for certain contracts. Just, you don't then go not get a lawyer.
No.
But what you do is you cut out when you do go to your lawyer. I just saw my lawyer. Yes, I was like, this is what I want the coach. So that cost me probably $1,000 less. It's just
exactly.
It's just those little things. And also, I found it quite empowering because it's phrased things in ways I've gone, that's interesting. Actually, I'm going to phrase it that way next time, or I am going to refine those 3 questions into one question by saying it that way.
Yeah,
so,
and it's just a good way. But I do think the whole area that you touched on, you owning it, you put the notes in, that is something.
Be your own
It is 100%
your own advocate of good health.
Yeah, that's it.
And we do need to do more research around that.
That's it. So we've spoken about menopause.
Yes.
Perimenopause.
Yes.
Is this are we coupling that all in one?
Look, I think again, so menopause by diagnosis is the year after menses. As well as your last year, it's a year without period. But I think what we don't understand is menopause is forever.
Yeah, right.
There's no sort of menopause. I mean, although we term it menopause and post-menopause, menopause, I guess, is when that year's done, and then, it sort of starts from there. So that's kind of, it sort of drops off and stays drop off. You can't, unless you're taking HRT, you can't pick these hormones back up as well.
Okay.
Perimenopause, though, is obviously the fluctuation. That's kind of when the fluctuation starts. And the thing with that is that can start, that can be 2 years, that can be 10 years.
Yes.
And, I was on a panel the other day, and this person quite interestingly said, there aren't 100 symptoms of perimenopause. And I felt like going up to him going, look, sure, yeah. Clinically.
Hang on. You felt like going up to him,
number one. I mean, I'm not man bashing or anything, but I did go, right, okay, here we go again. Right. But I mean, clinically, obviously, the symptoms that we know about is dry vagina, hot flushes, but there are such subtle things because of the influence of estrogen and testosterone. I mean, estrogen itself, we have estrogen receptors in our brain.
Yeah.
We have estrogen receptors in our gut. Certain bacteria has estrogen receptors. It's a pro-collagen producer. It is a enzyme protector for vitamin D. It has collagen elastin pathways. It basically helps for how we build muscle. So sure, they are, as estrogen declines, sure, they're not singly, menopausal, postmenopausal, but they are a contribution, and those symptoms are. And what it is that we can't deny them.
No.
Nor does anyone give the right to label, because again, otherwise you get this I am crazy moment again happening to you.
Yeah, isn't that just every day? No.
I like my crazy.
Yeah. You say food is one of the best tools we have for balancing hormones. How does that actually work?
Yeah. So it's really interesting when it comes to the foundation of a good diet. And the thing is, it doesn't start when you're perimenopausal, ideally. It starts at the beginning as well. But there are key foods that we can actually help to, support. So number one thing I always kind of look at with clients is really liver and absorption. I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but, if we are not working with those pathways, we are wanting to making sure those, these 4 phases of detoxification are actually doing their job, purely because they already have, the hormonal, they basically have to metabolize hormones, blood. They have to metabolize everything and clear them. Then when you start eating a poor diet, you just compound that. And you have to see there's almost like a pecking order when it comes to kind of how we're metabolizing and getting rid of toxins. The more toxic thing, that's the thing the body, has to kind of get rid of on top of everything else as well. So if we're having a cleaner style diet, then what that does, it just means that the body's able to focus on what its natural biological responses are. But there are certain foods that can support that process. So we need lots of sulfurogenic foods. So we need those beautiful, colourful foods like beetroot and carrot. We also need all those brassica families. So, your bok choy and your cauliflower and your broccoli in your diet as well. For me, that is very much, I just pack it all into one. I have a cold pressed juice every single day. It's kind of my non-negotiable. You do not need to juice every day.
Yeah.
And ideally, sure, if you've got time to do it, but I don't have time to do it.
No.
So I do it on a Sunday and I juice enough for 3 days. I do beetroot, carrot, ginger. I put something sort of bitter in there as well. So it's normally the lemon, grapefruit, again, increasing those stomach enzymes, help me sort of process and digest the food. I juice it. I put it into a glass container because, again, we need to be mindful a little bit of those xenoestrogens and the plasticizers, again, from the hormone disrupting contribution. And I put it in the fridge. Now, I have it as my pre-workout. So I get up in the morning and I have it every morning about 250 mils with a bit of water before that. And that's energy as well to help me exercise. The key thing with juicing, though, is making sure there's a high level of fiber. But that also has a big picture when it comes to how we get rid of fats and toxins within our body. Most of us, most of us are getting enough protein. What we're not getting enough is enough quality protein.
Yeah.
And that does become affected when we are kind of fluctuating in our hormones because of things like our digestive enzymes get affected through different phases of perimenopause. But it's also that we need to have a bit more of those sort of cross sections of fibers because we've basically got soluble and insoluble fibers, which obviously help to kind of pull fats out or increase bowel motions. But then we have something called resistant starch. And this is a really interesting one. So resistant starch is exactly like the name states. It's resistant. So what it means is that when you digest that food, it's going to go all the way through your gastrointestinal tract and it's going to get broken down in your colon. And there's a lot of bacteria within your colon as well. So you feed the bacteria with all this good fiber. It's like a prebiotic. So we know the probiotic is the bacteria, the prebiotic is the food that feeds the bacteria. And we need a lot of this in our diet overall. So they come in things like,
I was just about to ask, what are they coming?
Yeah, what are they coming? Yeah, there's always leave. But wait, there's more. So they are often in when we cook and cool certain foods. So when we cook things like potatoes and
what is that like with the cooking of potatoes, cooling?
So interesting, isn't it? So what actually happens is that again, I've done a bit of research on this. I'm trying to get sort of a definite answer in it because a lot of people say, but if you heat it again, does it change it?
Yeah.
So what is in the cooking of it? It changes the molecule structure, and then I guess when it closes it changes it again. So it makes it less digestible. So it takes longer to be broken down.
Okay.
And then when it actually gets to the colon, it's broken down in that area as well.
So does that mean those cold roast potatoes are actually a great thing?
They are.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Potato salad back on the menu.
Okay.
But it's also things like legumes and pulses and nuts and seeds.
Yes.
Nuts, seeds, but also it's in things like green bananas. So we just do
green bananas.
Yeah. And again, it's it's almost like that chalkiness in your mouth. I know it's not the nicest. So again, we just need to pepper these foods into our diet.
Yeah. Okay, good. And what are the foods, or are there any foods that naturally help with things like mood swings, bloating, and energy crashes?
Yes. I mean, magnesium.
Okay, yeah, right.
Okay, so again, it's probably the key nutrient. It's in 300 enzymatic functions within our body.
Yes.
You can get in things like nuts and seeds, different grains in the diet. But again, I can't necessarily advocate that you go and take a supplement, but it's something that I think is often in supplement form is just more absorbable and you can get a higher dose of it as well. So it's really important, though, when you are choosing magnesium, because there's magnesium and there's magnesium.
There's so many different types.
So what you want is you want a glycinate form of magnesium.
Okay, yes.
It means the molecule is actually more absorbable
yes.
than other forms of magnesium as well. Okay. Otherwise, you'll find that some of those poor clotties, they just flood the colon and you actually end up going to the toilet more regularly.
Right.
So I'll get, not so bad on from a bowel motion point of view because it's not disrupting, it's just filling water, but not great from what we're wanting.
Not the absorption of it.
So why magnesium is so good, really, it works on our nervous system.
Yeah.
Right. So really that's the one that has that sort of slight soporific effect. It calms you down. What we all understand when we're less frenetic in a state of stress, we're actually using less nutrients as well. We're using less of those B vitamins as well. But again, we do need to get a lot of good quality B vitamins in our diet. B6 and B5 are two vitamins that basically, or two B vitamins that build a lot of the hormones.
Yep.
So we do need to make sure that we're getting a lot of those, and also very good from a nervous system point of view as well.
And how are we consuming those, or should we consume those?
Yeah, I mean, again, you would get them in lots of nuts and seeds and grains and meat and things like that.
Okay, great.
But again, with what's quite interesting, particularly with things like the MTHRF gene, so these gene mutations.
Yes.
A lot of the B vitamins that you're buying as supplement are not being absorbed because they're not methylated. So they've got to kind of bypass. And this is where things like sometimes NMN is quite a useful. I'm reading a little bit more about that. NMN sort of bypasses that methylation process.
Right.
And so this is why a lot of women, or men and women, feel pretty good. Yeah. Those gene mutations, I mean, the statistic is it's around 30% of the population. Now, that's people that are going and getting tested. So it's probably far more than you probably got genetically now 2 parents that have it, then pretty much more that child would have it. That's not to say, again, that gene will be expressed or not, because, genes are one thing and epigenetics is the sort of the expressor of, whether that's turned on or off. But the reality is when you're buying a B vitamin, you should just, because we don't know, just buy a methylated B vitamin or what they often call an activated B vitamin.
Activated. Okay. Yeah. That makes me be able to remember it.
Yes. Yeah. Let's go with those words.
Now, this one doesn't apply to me, but is coffee really the enemy?
Do you not drink coffee?
No, I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Michael.
I know. We're so me bringing an avocado to dinner.
I, on the other hand, look, I think coffee can be fantastic, but it's when you have it.
Okay,
so it's really important. Caffeine in general. If you look at the fluctuation of cortisol, one of our energy stress hormones, if you like. So cortisol is at its peak around 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and sort of starts to kind of dip down around sort of 9, comes back up. Sort of 12, come back down, around 2, 3 comes back up, and then goes back down, and then melatonin does exactly the opposite, ideally.
Yeah.
So, if you think about that when you're having a coffee, which or any caffeinated drink, most of us are having it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, when you're already spiked.
Yeah, you're already spiked. So that decline is going to feel greater. But the other thing also is that when cortisol level goes up, insulin will also be affected as well.
Right.
So then what happens is sort of coupled with this kind of effect on blood glucose levels, and it's then very hard to then go and choose the right types of foods.
So is it then best to have it at 9 o'clock?
Perfect. Or if you are going to have it, you have it with, definitely with, some sort of protein, so whether it be milk, your MCT, your virgin coconut oil, because what that will do is that sort of encapsulates the caffeine in some way and slows, because that's a very slow releasing food. Slows the release. But also it means you put something in your gut as well. So it decreases the chance of inflammation. So that's the other thing.
I love what you said before about when you're in a stressed or heightened anxiety that you are burning more of your nutrition. I hadn't even thought about it, but it makes total sense.
And the other thing also is it redirects blood flow. So blood flow will go from sort of muscle health and what have you to basically the primary organs, your brain, your blood, it just, you need to get out. So your brain, your brain, your heart, you just need to, and your muscles to get the hell out of there. So it's really them, digestively, it's that whole kind of rest and digest. We talk about the sympathetic nervous system or, the autonomic nervous system, and you've got the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system is your fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
So again, that's when that blood flow is going to kind of go into brain, heart, muscle, get the fuck me out, get the fuck out of here situation.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to go to digestion.
Yeah, right.
So a lot of the time that will affect how we're absorbing our food, because, again, we're not assisting with that process, where rest and digest is the parasympathetic nervous system. And look, you don't want to either be in one permanently.
No.
What you want is that undulation to be. But I hate using the word balance, because the human body is not meant to be in balance. It's meant to fluctuate with, correctness. It's meant to be able to deal with circumstances with, not putting yourself into a huge amount of threat all the time as well. And this is why, I think nutrition is so important. I always do think timing of food is really important. Know your eating habits. It's really old school, but keeping a food journal is an incredible way to understand your eating cycles. I mean, when Emily was a little girl, I actually for a couple of days would keep food diaries with her just to see what was going on, because she'd often be like, I'm not hungry, I don't feel like eating, I've got a sore tummy. And I was like, oh, even me, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what we're doing. I'm failing. So I kept a food diary. What I found out with Emily is that she was a kid that just wanted to eat a huge amount in the morning. I can give Emily an omelette, a smoothie. I can give her a piece of toast. I can give her so much food in the morning.
Yeah.
And then she's just not that interested. And like even when we get to dinner, it's like, we used to play all these different games. Obviously, we don't anymore. She sort of looks at me as if I'm an idiot these days. She's not as interested, but at least I feel I've got such a beautiful section of foods, slow releasing, low glycemic, full of protein. There was a really interesting study that actually, and we're digressing a little bit, but happy children really makes everyone happy, and
absolutely, it sure does.
The opposite makes everyone traumatized. So it was saying that if you give a child, they were talking about eggs.
Oh yes, an egg a day,
an egg a day. Their average IQ is up like 15 points or something like that. And it's simply because you're giving them something that the body actually needs as fuel. It's slow releasing. When your body's eaten, it has less of a stress response because it's not setting markers saying quickly go forage food, go find food.
Yeah.
And again, they're calmer.
Oh, so much. I've been hard boiling eggs for the kids. Yeah. It's just like every day. Okay. Yep. At breakfast.
I should do that.
Yeah.
As snacks as well.
Well, it's just
the problem with I just find that Emily just won't sit down at lunch. That's half the problem. I've actually handed over lunch to Michael.
Oh.
Now. Yeah. So I handed a lot of things over to Michael. It's been very subtle. He doesn't actually know that. I've just slowly stepped away. I'm like, it's purely because I think also, sometimes my lunches, they're healthy.
Yeah.
And Michael's lunches has a lot more excitement.
Yeah.
So, and also I think he's just a bit more practical. He gives her a sandwich, something that she can run around and hold it, where I'm giving her like, lentil soup or, she's not very into the salads, but just,
really?
Well, she does. She's right into the, sesame dressing.
Oh yes,
but she wanted it. It was just the most random thing. She's like, I think one of her girlfriends at school. Sadly, I think some of them are actually talking about weight, which is quite I think
terrible.
Really sad to hear. Already at such a young age,
10 and 11-year-olds to be able to talk about that.
Anyway.
Well, talking about weight, but more for us. We grew up in the low-fat, calorie counting era. What's the biggest crock of advice that we can try to overcome this? Because it's it's so ingrained.
It's just fat. I mean, I have never, ever eaten a low-fat diet.
Yeah.
I have always had, apart from going to England and getting the Heathrow injection and putting 10 kilos on, we all know why that. I had no money. I was studying at the corner. And if I made 10 creme caramels, that was literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah. And beer. I was eating so much beer. You never walked anywhere in England. So, I think it's really understanding that, every single cell in the human body needs fat and proteins. We need these. These are fundamentally important. Again, it's trans fats that are the problem. They're the ones that are carcinogenic and then rob the body of those, those can very aptly imbalance the things like the good cholesterol versus the bad cholesterol. But every fat in every meal and every snack. Now, what the benefit of that is?
Okay, so fat in every meal.
Every meal, every snack.
Okay, every snack.
Every snack. Every meal, every snack. And when I talk fat, we could be like 3 macadamias with the apple that you're eating.
Yeah, okay.
It's not hard. It's really not hard. I sort of have the kind of, in my sort of programs when I work with clients, I've sort of say, look, a tablespoon in every meal, every snack is pretty much guaranteed that you're going to tick the box and you're going to get your recommended daily intake of good fats over the course of the day as well. Ideally, what we're trying to eat is essential fatty acids. Saturated fats have their place without a doubt. But again, if you're someone who has compromised cholesterol and you are very overweight, having a high saturated fat diet as opposed to a high essential fatty acids is not going to be well balanced. Again, that word, it's not going to be to your advantage.
Yeah.
But if you have a high essential fatty acids, which again often has a cross section of other things, it's often how you're getting them. You're getting them really good sources of protein as well. You'll be getting them in fish and nuts and seeds. These are beautiful sources of protein.
Yeah.
Grass-fed meat, has beautiful essential fatty acids. Great. You're ticking the boxes of other sources of nutrients as well. You're getting a beautiful source of fiber in them. So that's probably the number one thing I'd say. And the other thing also is that, not that it's a crock of shit, but, diversity really is important.
Yeah.
And it's for a number of different reasons. We need to get those 30 servings of fruit and vegetables. Now, we're not just talking about, it's more vegetables and fruit, to be honest. It's plant-based foods. So we're not just, the good thing about that, you don't just have to get vegetables. Think of herbs, spices, cumin, coriander, nuts and seeds, legumes. They all fit into this, realm. I also like the fact that, when you start leaning a little bit more on those vegetarian sources of protein, like your legumes and your pulses, if your gut can handle them.
Yes.
They are so heavy in fibers. They're so heavy in protein. They're inexpensive.
Yeah.
So you just kind of, and I don't mean go and eat like a whole thing of like go get a tin of lentils and start, lunch it, because I mean, that would affect anyone's gut. But again, we're just getting some of those diverse foods is good not only for the cross-section of nutrients, but also our microbiome.
Yeah. Okay. What is your go-to snack?
Oh, it's always macadamias.
Oh, is it?
Always
Okay.
macadamias. I love macadamias. I always have them. Actually, they're not in this bag, but they're in the car. I go to the gym and I'm going to a new gym. I'm actually training with Leah Simmers because I'm designing her nutrition plan.
Nice.
Or for Kai, for those of you who don't know Kai, go and have a look. It's remarkable.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Absolutely
It's really
amazing.
cool. But it's been like I'm deadlifting and squatting. I'm like, oh, it feels so good to be powerful. Just such a nice feeling and again, it's made me understand more about the importance of strength, particularly as
you old,
as we get
older.
as we get older,
as you age, not old.
Yeah. But again, I'm very organized. So the point, just to quickly talk. I'm very organized.
Yeah,
I'm always having snacks. I put all before I leave. I have all my powders, which are protein powders and collagen and whatever my Wellco products or whatever I've got in there. They're all in there, ready to go. And I'm actually drinking that the whole way through my training sessions as well. So I'm not dropping or spiking.
You're just consistent.
I'm consistent. And then often, I've come from that to having a quick sauna to you.
Yeah.
Didn't have time to have brekkie. So I've got, my macadamias, which I know will get me through. And then I'll have something. I'll have an early lunch, but quite a large one. Yeah. And that will just sort of fit the bill.
And I like the drinking of the, whatever they are, the supplement or throughout training as well.
It's really, I still do work with things like, marathon runners and people who are sort of high endurance type exercises. And it was quite interesting. So I've been in this industry 22 years. And when I started working with them, it was very much about carbohydrate, goos. Yeah. I said to them, really, can we just test this out? So I'd get my clients to basically have one bottle, which was pure protein, and one bottle that was electrolytes. So the carbohydrates was coming in, and we put a little bit of carbohydrates within that electrolyte and alternating. So every 15 minutes they were alternating.
Wow.
They said they were getting PBs. They were doing better than ever before. Now that's common practice now to actually do. Not that I'm saying in any way, but before that I started that because I didn't. I think there was I
think that's what I heard.
Yeah. No, I was definitely not. I like toot my. I probably should toot my own horn a bit more, to be honest. Anyway.
Women over 40 get told to do everything.
Yeah.
Fasting, keto, protein loading, carb cutting.
Yeah.
How do we know it works?
Yeah. Everybody's different. That's one. I think pick one thing and give it a good 3 to 6 months because consistency is the key. I think, sometimes, I always have this saying, anything's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And when it comes to my exercise personally, and I feel like I am the fittest and healthiest I've ever been.
Honestly, you look amazing.
My weight, my body fat was 15.9% the other day. My bio age was 38. Now I'm tooting my own horn.
Yeah.
And I got when we did my eVault, I was like a 9.4. And I was so proud of myself because
it's amazing.
But this has been because of my, my shit mental health and because I got so sick. And when I got perimenopause, I had just lost a baby, or lost a miscarriage. So, however you want to term that. I tried again, didn't work. Then went into, told I was the reason why I wasn't going to work was because I was perimenopausal. Then got Ross river virus. So it was just like I was roller coasting and rock bottom. And I'm not the kind of person. I'm very outspoken, but I'm not very good at asking for help.
Yeah,
I'm just a push through kind of person. So I just sort of said to myself very gently, I was 39 at the time, I said, my next 40 years are going to be the best 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start now. So I'm 36 now. It's taken 6 years to get here. So that's my point, people. It doesn't matter when you start this. It's not going to happen straight away, but it's like I am now, I'm now the tortoise. I'm not the hare. I have my hare moments.
Yeah.
Everyone probably still thinks I'm the hare. You should have seen me before. But it's really like consistency, finding what works for you. Don't be frightened of food and don't be frightened of exercise.
Yeah.
It is, fueling your body. You are better to fuel your body with more of the good stuff because, again, often what happens, if your blood sugar levels are falling, it will then affect all of those other. It's a cascade. It really starts to affect your anxiety and your depression because, again, your feeding into and you're declining some of those other hormones that are happening at the same time.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake women make when they try to eat healthy for their hormones?
I think we often follow a diet, you know, and then we apply stress into that process as well. So be flexible. You fuck up. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
start again.
Start again. Like, I mean, I might say it's not how much how badly you fuck up. It's how long you fuck up for.
Yeah, that's
and that's really the thing. Start again tomorrow. It's not a big deal. We're not children. We don't need to self-flagellate and beat ourselves up because we didn't do it the perfect way. And that is the problem.
Yeah,
women think we have to do it perfectly. And I don't want to bash on other women, but often what other women are doing, they're judging us in the process as well.
Yeah.
So find your crew.
Yeah.
Find your supportive human beings, whether it be men, female, children, animals. It doesn't matter what it is. You put the things that make you feel loved around you when you're trying to make change and you're sad, because you need to be able to prop yourself up in any way. And the other thing also is, I do, and a game changer for me was meditation. I studied transcendental meditation. The theory, obviously, it's the neuroplastosis process. That 40-day process of doing it repetitively, it weaves new synaptic pathways. So what that simply means is that next time you're in a shitty situation, you can drop into that other situation faster because your neural pathways know what it feels like. So although I don't practice meditation twice a day, I have weaved those mechanisms into my everyday life now. So whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have this thing I call it hand in hand. Doesn't matter where I am, I hold my hand. It's literally the two versions of me, the good, the bad, the crazy, the smart, joining together. And I get overwhelmed even when I do it now, because it just it sort of surges all the feelings that we're trying to cut off. But then I get the opportunity just to calm down. Yeah. And I can do it quite quickly now. So you can make up your own little tools and tricks. I mean, I did some psychotherapy courses to kind of understand a bit more about the unhooking of the immediate process and getting out of the immediate, because yes, we know that there are these elements of issue on the outside, but you can't focus on them when you're in a state of flux. No. So you need tools to unhook you in the here and now as well. And then you can focus on your nutrition and you can focus on those other things. Yeah. So, it's working out maybe if that's the core to start with, then start there.
Yeah. And I think that it is a big thing. Like, even to try and reduce my stress levels, I did that meditation course and it was amazing. It's like beautiful. It's just having that time to yourself.
He's a lovely Matt Bingo.
Yeah. He's great. Yeah. And I think it was, for me, just that time for yourself. And no one could take it away. You didn't. There weren't the rules that, like with every other meditation, it's just the time to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I like transcendental is, I think, for me personally, the one that works for me.
Yeah.
It's just repeating like the mantra over and over and over again. I mean, I also like Yoga Nidra, which is the body scanning. I think that's a really good one. It's great for kids ones. I think there's, and also it's picking kind of what is your personality type, because I kind of undulate between those two, because sometimes if I'm in a more sort of hyper state, going, I can't repeat my mantra. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Just a quick, very funny story. So one of my closest girlfriends, we did this together. And then when we left, because we went to Bali, did it, right? And then we both came out and we were like, does your one sound like this? And she's like, broom. Like we were trying to guess what each other's mantra. I'm like, mine's like room with a cup, It was just like, she's like, okay, kapuku. Yeah, it was just we were in hysterics. So now I think even that moment injected humor into it. So I kind of, there's, you can use all these tools, and sometimes we've just got to replace the shitty stuff with some good stuff, some good memories.
And that's it. You definitely do. For women who don't have time to make the green smoothies or whatever it is every morning, what's one small realistic change that they can make?
I think water would be a really simple thing that we can do. Yes,
right.
Yes.
Now let's have one now. Lindsay, I didn't get you a water.
So selfish.
I know.
So look, I think we are, particularly with those body temperature changes as well, we are fluctuating within sort of, our temperature changes, our thyroid's a lot, going a little bit more over the place, our muscle ability is changing. So just, water everywhere you go. The other thing also, even putting a little bit of Celtic sea salts just to get those electrolytes and get that sort of mineral balance back a little bit as well is a really simple thing. But also what I find it's just a process. Sometimes if I've got my water bottle, and although those annoying, expensive water bottles that my daughter says to get everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just ridiculous. It just drives me insane. But I have stolen one, and because it is so big. Sorry, Emily. Because it is so big, the volume is a lot easier.
Yeah.
So it's in the car. It goes everywhere with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one simple thing as well. From a nutrition point of view, I just think wake up and eat something.
Yeah,
and I know you might not feel like it, but it will, particularly something slow releasing. And we're talking a very small amount. It could be a couple of tablespoons of a good quality.
Yes.
Like
yogurt.
Look, ideally natural yogurt with berries and honey. But if you're going to get a flavored yogurt, just read the label, because there's a lot of crap sort of in a lot of these products. Yana is a good, again, I'm not sponsored by any of the brands, but Yana is a good one to sort of add into there. But I think, that, because what that does, immediately it will kind of give you some energy. Yeah, will kind of metabolically kind of get the metabolism furnacing as well. And look, intermittent fasting is a really interesting thing, but I do find for our age bracket or our hormonal bracket, I shouldn't even term it an age bracket, because it is a hormonal bracket. I find that fasting in the evening is more effective because, again, because of the compromise already, cortisol's, up there rocking. Often we're like, there's 1,000 things happening in our life. But also what I find is that if you can set the intention and have that, whether you make a chia pudding the night before and you put these little pots, and as you drive the kids to school or as you're driving to work or you're taking the dog for work, you might just be sipping it in a smoothie or you might be whatever, just to kind of, actually I was just pictured, it might be hard to walk a dog in a chia pudding.
But I do now every morning have 3 tablespoons, and I'll probably get in trouble with this, of chia, hot water, lemon and honey, and just drink it. And it's like great.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to your gut. I mean, it's a gelatinous product. It helps kind of clear out, some of the things. But I think you probably find that the water and the lemon is probably the thing that's probably the magic. Yeah. And that combination kind of works really well. But again, it's 2 parts. It's a process. You're immediately putting intention into yourself. You're saying, I am worth having something, and I mean, my husband is the human being I always laugh. He's either going to bed late or he's getting up early. Yeah. There's no in between with Michael. There's just nothing, So, but because of that, it has actually taught me to get up earlier. So I do get up at 5 now, just so I've got 15 minutes to unpack the dishwasher. Put Emily's lunch out. We do it up the night before, and I give the rest to Michael to kind of finish the, all the sandwiches, and he does the main part of it. But then I just I put all my powders in. I have a couple of tablespoons. I make a coffee so I can have that in the car, So I've had all my smoothies and I've had that just to kind of get me going. And, it's just there. Yeah. And I just it's made life, I feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I do think if you do, like, there's 2 things. I hate water. Like, I know I shouldn't say that, but
water hates you too.
Yeah, it's just so boring. Like, it's just such a boring drink. But I try and now.
You don't like coffee. I mean, you're not one to talk.
Or wine. But the collagen, like if I put collagen in it, I can actually drink it. Like as a warm drink.
These products are expensive, but again, these products are actually, so collagen is quite interesting. So if you look at things like collagen and creatine and some of these branched chain amino acids, they're the starting point of how we actually build amino acids. So they are really important, particularly when we are at these phases where we're not absorbing or breaking down or building these things as effectively. I mean, it's something like 15 to 30% reduction in the ability to build muscle. So interestingly enough, Michael was, the person who actually got me onto creatine, and I was like, no, it's just an internet fad, really. I'm taking protein. I'm doing this. I'd never really taken collagen, but I've started taking both of them, and really good products. My nail and hair have been better. So I can only put it down because I'm very succinct. And that's why you've got to be a bit careful with supplements. If you're taking 20 supplements, you're not going to know what's happening. You're not going to know the impact. It is really important that you get quality, you get advice, you don't buy off the internet.
Not like getting like mushrooms and like having 20 of them rather than 2.
Yeah, well, I know that's called common fucking sense. But anyway,
well, that just tasted so good.
Let me drink water next time.
Down them with water.
Yeah, exactly. And to note for everybody else, this is what not to do. Yeah. So look, I mean, I think that is a simple thing that we can apply.
Yeah.
Again, good quality protein, please. It's just so important.
Yeah.
The amount is basically 1 gram per kilogram of body weight
Yeah.
is what you're supposed to be having. Now I'm 65 kilos, 65. This is usable protein. Who's going to go and calculate that?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
150 grams steak has about 30 grams of usable protein, but really, so again, it's just, I always say to my clients, just make sure you're getting the best quality protein in every meal and every snack. The benefit of that is not only is it the building block, it's a very slow releasing food. From a glycemic point of view, if you're eating something a little bit more high glycemic, you're eating it with something that's low glycemic, you'll get the average. So from a sustaining of appetite and a regulation of blood sugar levels, that's a really key component. In the space of tilting into the world of longevity now, what we are really heavily looking at is blood glucose.
Yeah.
And I do think, I've always been a massive advocate. I get all my clients to, follow a more low glycemic style diet. Always have done, moderate protein, moderate fat. But I do, I've worked, there's so many great supplements, chromium, vitamin C, magnesium, berberine, NMN. These are all heavily, regulating our blood glucose levels, and there's going to be a lot more research that goes into that. There's also some GLP-1 drugs now that are natural that are coming out that are fantastic, for the regulation of those neurochemical appetite regulating hormones.
Yeah,
so it's a really interesting space as well.
What would be a great 3 p.m. craving?
Yeah.
I've hit my wall.
So can I?
Yeah.
What's interesting about that, if you had it about 2:30, that's what's even more effective.
Yeah,
because what you're going to be getting is 3 o'clock, naturally cortisol levels low anyways.
Yeah.
Your body's kind of a bit fatigued as it is. Often that's, from a digestive point of view, you've eaten around 12:30. So digestively, your blood sugar levels are falling. So it's know your timing.
Yeah.
So if you eat half an hour before, what you're going to catch is you're going to catch it on the decline, not at the bottom. Very hard to then, you have to have a lot of willpower
to get.
Yeah. So, I mean, timing's definitely one thing. And obviously, again, I keep going on about the sort of protein and good fats and low GI carbs. There's some really good protein balls that you can. I mean, I hate protein balls, to be honest. But I think it literally feels like I'm going to be constipated for a month when I eat them. But again, things like that are quite simple.
Yeah.
I'm a real sort of fan of saving some of my lunch and keeping that.
That's actually a great idea.
Because I like food. I'm not, apart from having my nuts, I'm not so much of a snacker. I'm a meal maker. I love to have a meal. That's why I would rather, and smoothies are great and everything, but I'm not a smoothie drinker.
Yeah.
I put my powders in and have that in water. And that's kind of like my medicinal supplement that I have like when I'm training. That's kind of my training kind of program, if you like. Occasionally I'll go and buy a smoothie. But again, I always find them a bit too sweet. I don't necessarily like the chalkiness of the protein.
Yeah.
So they're expensive,
Yeah.
$16 for a smoothie. I'm like,
they're ridiculous.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
When you're getting that every day, and definitely what the average person can't afford as well.
I do love the save some of your lunch. Like it's great. Like eat 80% for lunch and then 20% in the afternoon.
It's great digestively.
Yeah.
Because often we're not overeating. It's a lot more inclined because I'm a lot more interested by what I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
I think about it. There's something, the mental phase or the cephalic phase of eating is when you think about food and you produce salivary amylase and protease and lipase through your saliva.
Yeah.
So it actually helps digestion of that food. So it's just, I find a bit of a go-to for me personally. But again, half a banana and some macadamias, something again. God, I want to be macadamias, please.
I think you should just get a farm up there, a macadamia farm.
Oh man, I can't even buy a bag. It's not my thing.
You've worked with so many women. What's the common aha moment that they have?
Yeah, I think, look, the common aha moment is two things, interestingly enough. When they realise they can eat more and weigh less.
Yes.
It's still, I eat more than most people would actually realise based on the way I look. It's because I fuel my body correctly.
Yeah, I've been out to dinner with you and you keep eating everyone's leftovers.
I had food curious. I'm known within my friends. I'll be like, I'm forever like annoyed by my own meal that I've ordered and I just want everybody else's. And the other thing is training, weights training. I think for me, my personal aha moment was, I've always trained. And again, I think it's just something, it's worked really well for me. It's a great, I'm known from a mental health point of view. It's been, my get out of jail free card in some way. But again, I like the feeling of being strong.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah. And I think there was so much misinformation for quite a long time, and I wasn't really coupling it correctly with my diet. Interestingly enough, at this age, I find it so much easier to actually have found that balance. But also, weights training is like, you can do the most amazing small weights train, like, sumo squats and deadlifts, which is what Leah's teaching me, is a full body workout.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but you just feel like you feel incredible.
Yeah.
You feel, I don't want to say feel like a man, because that's not what I'm trying to say.
You
but
feel
if there's a feeling like what a man feels like, that strength and what we've all kind of had, that archetypal kind of viewpoint, that's what I feel like, but still as a woman.
Yeah. What about sleep? How important is sleep?
Yeah. So sleep is a doozy, and again, as we age, men and women, melatonin starts to decline. What's really interesting, again, melatonin, we need certain amino acids to build melatonin.
Right.
So you can see it gets affected quite rapidly. Women will say, I was a great sleep, and then all of a sudden I can't sleep.
Yeah. Or I wake up at 2:00.
Yeah.
Or I can't get back to
sleep. So the interesting thing is waking up at around 2-3 o'clock. And I often, when I'm doing my workshops, I'll say, who wakes up? And half the class.
Yeah.
That's when cortisol starts to increase.
Oh, really?
So what's happening often within that space is there's some bit of a, adrenal dysregulation going. And just even enough of that spike is enough to set you up. Now, what then we do is we start trying to solve the world's fucking problems at 2 o'clock in the morning. So there is some health hygiene, sleep hygiene that we need to. So it's not just that we need to nutritionally or supplement-wise work in that space. We need to then say, it's all right, sweetheart. Like I call myself sweetheart, because I've had to speak so nicely to my, I've had this, I'm a Gemini, and I'm certainly got the duality, because I've got one that says you're a fucking nightmare and one, you're so wonderful, So it was trying to kind of get them to sort of work together, So that's that mental health side of things, and the meditation, and just saying, it doesn't matter if I lie here all night. It's not the end of the world, but now is not the time to think about these things. So I just keep repeating that saying, now is not the time to think about these things. Now is not the time. And I just keep, saying it and saying it.
Well, it's like a meditative.
Well, it is. It is exactly. It is a mantra within itself as well. But in saying that, I also have worked heavily on my own and with my clients, the adrenal support. So where I have done that is mainly through adaptogenic herbs. Okay. So ashwagandha, withania, ginseng. Withania and ashwagandha are the same thing. But what they actually do, they're modulators. So, for example, if you have a dysregulation with your adrenals and they're sort of up-regulating, it will kind of balance it out. But if they're down-regulating, it will help to bring them up. So it's a perfect balancing act as well. You need to be mindful, though, that with these herbs, you have to have a good tolerance to liver. You need to be able to metabolize these things. Like anything we're putting in our body, whether it be a supplement or a food, the more we put of all these things, the more we have to process them as well. So that's why I'm always sort of saying lots of liver health, lots of gut health, lots of support that way, because these things work really effectively, but they work even better if every mechanism's working the way it should do.
And the only reason I'm laughing is because my liver and my 7,000 supplements that I was having a day, and they're going, the liver guy said, no, just
I'm really proud of you, though,
let
because
it go.
What I love about what you did, Dom, is that you had quite a few doctors saying this is the way it's going to be forever. And I was like, good on you. You just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. No, it's great. No, hands off to you.
Pushing a lot and a lot.
Yeah.
If we make small changes now, what are some of the long-term benefits that we can actually see?
Massive benefits as well. For example, if you start eating a protein-rich, calcium-rich, vitamin D-rich diet now, you will decrease your risk of osteopenia, osteoporosis. Some of the biggest issues that women actually have is, although we live longer than men, the average is 85 years, our health space or our wellness actually caps out at about 65 to 70. That is a long time to often be on your own, if you're not married or you're not with a partner. If you're two women, you're lucky because you get lots of support. I'm like, I should have chosen that. But again, what it is, it's more that, you want your health space to basically, to be as long as it possibly can. That's one thing. The other thing also, with resistance training, often what happens is that, falls is what's put a lot of women in a situation where they're incapacitated, financially can't work as well. And it really, their state of well-being and their lifestyle gets heavily affected. So just small amounts of resistance training. There is so much on the internet. You don't necessarily need to see a trainer. There is so much free information out there as well. And again, I think it's really important that we build that community around us. There is lots of podcasts, there is lots of forums, there's lots of women, there's lots of environments out there that you can actually speak to like-minded people.
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, be your own health advocate. I have a great relationship with, thankfully, the doctor that you introduced me to.
Thanks, Dr. Susie.
Yeah, Susie, thank you very much. I'm so busy. I've sent my entire network to you. And then every now and then I email and I would text her going, can you fit me?
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Please. But again, get a good support network around you medically, whether that be psychologist, psychiatrist, if you need it from a mental health, counselor, meditation. Build that around you. There's no shame in all of this. You would go, if you had, a broken arm, you would go to the doctor for that. A broken brain, you go fix that too.
Yeah, that's it.
And again, get your GPs and get all that in order.
And it's funny, something that I always think about is what would my 80-year-old self think?
Exactly.
And, it does stop me doing some ridiculous things.
Yeah, look, I mean, I definitely have curbed some of the elements in my life. Not because, it doesn't serve me as well as it used to as well. I mean, drinking wine as much as I love it, we were talking about this before, it makes me feel really unwell. So I don't do certain things that I know aren't going to, I mean, I still have my binges like everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, I cap some of those elements because it's just more effective long term.
Yeah. What's one thing you wish every woman over 40 knew about hormones, food, and not feeling like shit?
I think it's just understanding that this is a wonderful process that we are all going to go through, and to not be fearful of the process, because that often feeds into the anxiety. The other thing also is that, food is your friends. You are what you eat. If you eat a crap diet, I'm sorry to say it, you're not going to be healthy.
No.
And there is no faking. There's no supplements that can help you with that. I mean, you can mitigate that as much as you can, but at some point something snaps as well. Movement, we don't just exercise to look good. We exercise because that's what human beings do, because we don't move the way that we were designed to.
Yeah.
Sure, we now have to term it exercise, but really we just need to move more as well. I mean, I am known for someone who will move. I just move a lot because it just makes me feel so good.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm crazy. If I don't move or if I don't exercise, I can't.
When I'm on a flight, even domestically, I am that person that goes to the toilet 3 parts. Just because I'm not
get up near the cockpit, start stretching, and they're like, I'm that one.
We all know where you're sitting though.
Whatever. All right, Zoe, thank you. This has been amazing. But before we wrap up,
yes,
I have got one last question.
I'm scared.
No, it's not anything bad. If I could try just one thing before I hit 50, something to shake me up, get me out of autopilot, and just make me try something different.
Yes.
What would it be?
You mean, what would it be? What would I say as a nutritionist? Or what would I say? It's something different. Look, I think, injecting joy into your life is just so important. I think the times that I've been able to change is when I've had a good fucking giggle at myself and I haven't taken myself so seriously as well. I often am exercising going, why is no one else peeing their pants like I am? I can't do this skipping. And I do it because I like laughing at myself.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's just, life is just too serious. It is scary.
Oh,
it's a process, these hormonal fluctuations, and we need to circuit break it. And laughter and joy is a really good way to do it. When it comes to nutrition, experiment, have a food, be curious. I mean, inject yourself into environments that are exciting. Go to produce markets, go to Flemington Market, go to these places that visually, sensorily excites you to want to think about food, and you might then try something that you might not have put there before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
I think I love the joy. The joy is like I try and bring joy all the time, and I mean for me it is whoever has the most fun wins. Yeah, because it has to be.
That's why we're good for ourselves.
I'm not taking yourself too serious.
Again, we get on well.
One thing we didn't touch on your retreats
Yes.
that are coming up.
Yes, I'm very excited about this.
Yes. Can you tell me about those?
So a lot of my retreats I normally run out of Gwingana, but this is one that I'm doing myself. So we are doing a full immersive retreat for 3 days. So
Nice.
from May 16th to May 19th. I have got women that have helped me through my process as part of this retreat as well. So obviously there'll be gorgeous nutrition seminars. I'm going to kind of walk you through the A to B to C of hormones. I'm going to explain to you sort of what you should be looking for, what foods you should aim to be eating. And then I'm going to do a yummy cooking class, and we're going to eat all those delicious foods. We've got an ex-Gwingana chef who's going to be cooking amazing foods, which are partially out of my cookbook, a little bit out of Gwingana's. Yeah. So you will be nourished and fed beautifully. And then my yoga teacher, Tessa Canny, who's helped me immensely, she's going to be doing that. And then we have a beautiful breathwork coach as well. Plus, the environment that you're in is just, oh my God, it's in the Tullabudgera Valley. You look down this beautiful,
See, why did you say that as my why? What that's what I should do before I'm 50.
Oh, yeah. So you should come to my retreat. I thought that was a bit too blatant, wasn't it, as well?
No,
look, it's 3. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, you want to come? so anyway, look, it's just a really gorgeous experience. There's ice baths there. We have infrared sauna. We're going to be doing yoga. There's weights training. And it's just a great way to bring, women together. We can share a little bit of our own experiences. The environment itself is just exquisite. I'm really, really excited. I'm nervous, but I'm really
amazing.
Nervous is like from the curious nervous side, not from the, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah.
But I hope some, people can join me for that one.
Yeah, I think that will be amazing. And I am definitely signing up for it. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you. You rock.
Yeah.
Thanks for and thank you for doing this, because I think everybody needs to be talking a little bit about turning 50 and not demonizing it and making it scary.
Or not judging.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Roll
ridiculous.
with it. Yeah,
roll absolutely. With it. Anyway, okay, all right, I'm going to close. Okay, Fuck, I'm Nearly 50 is all about owning this next chapter, finding more fun or joy, shaking things up and making sure we hit 50 on our terms. We've covered everything from hormones, food, stress, cravings, sleep, how to keep showing up for ourselves, how to keep snacking, and especially when life throws us those curveballs. If there's one thing I'm taking from this, hitting 50 isn't about restriction or playing it safe. It's about nourishing ourselves better, listening to what our bodies need, and making sure the next chapter feels energized and full of joy. If you want to delve deeper into anything, make sure you check out Zoe's books, because she does have a few books, or make sure that you do turn up to her retreats. And if you are craving that reset, I would recommend having a look at the retreat in May 16th to 19th. Yep. Because midlife isn't about winding down. It's about getting really clear on what actually matters and making the most of it. If you love this chat, hit subscribe, share it with your friends, or just comment and engage on socials. And before you go, why don't you also take Zoe's one little thing or one step challenge before you turn 50 and make sure you do find more joy and make sure that you are nourishing your body better. Try it for a week, see how it goes, because fuck, we're nearly 50 and isn't it amazing?